Happy Sunday, my beautiful people. Hope you guys are enjoying your Sunday morning. Today, I have a lot of interesting news to cover. We're going to be going over some of the new regulations that is hindering short-term rentals in Europe, specifically France. But I'm going to go a list of some of the countries and some of the cities that are really clamping down on short-term rentals, and how that's going to affect you, not only if you're a short-term rental operator, but as a traveler as well. And I'm going to get into some of the ways that you will be affected going into 2025, and some of this all the way up to 2027 if these regulations go into full effect, because they are going to affect how we travel going forward to Europe. And we're also seeing these travel restrictions in the US, like New York was one of them. Dallas was another city. So we're going to start to see some issues with regulations as it relates to short-term rentals. And again, as a traveler, this is going to affect you in your pocketbook, because it's not going to make it cheaper for you to travel, and you're going to have less options. But I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. I'm also going to talk about a company called August that is doing or taking an old concept and put it into residential and the luxury short-term rental market. Very interesting what they're doing, and they're doing it as a result of some of these regulations. I'm going to go into that. I'm going to talk about Hopper. If you're not familiar with Hopper, Hopper was an up-and-coming OTA or online travel platform. I'm going to talk about the issues that they're having. We're going to talk about the Grand Hyatt and their expansion going into 2025. And again, I'm going to explain why I think they're going into or expanding. And then we're going to go into some news, like right off the bat. Let me talk about Haiti. If you're not aware, Haiti is going through some internal conflicts with gang violence and violence in general. Recently, a Spirit airline that was traveling out of Haiti, I believe, they were either going in, but I believe they were going out of Haiti, got shot at. And as a result of that, and as a result of the violence, the FAA has put a travel ban on Haiti for the next 30 days. And I firmly believe that it'll get extended. But for those of you that have family in Haiti, pray for them. If you were planning to travel to Haiti, I highly recommend you reach out to your airlines, because as I mentioned, there is a current travel ban going to Haiti. So now let me do a quick promo, and we're going to talk about a all-exclusive resort that I recently visited in Punta Cana. They currently have a 25% discount if you book a stay between now and December 15th for any future travel to the resort until March. So let me show you this quick video so you can see the resort, and I'll talk about it right after. Share my screen. Got to share my screen, sorry. Presentation, share screen. Boom. Okay, so this resort is called the Cape Cana Punta Cana Secret Resort. And take a look.
Are you dreaming of a vacation in ultimate luxury? Prepare to meet Secrets Cap Cana. This fabulous adults-only paradise offers an all-inclusive vacation that's positively a dream come true. When you arrive at Secrets Cap Cana, you'll immediately notice the refinement and attention to detail found throughout the resort. In your suite, you'll find spaces inspired by the tropical surroundings, with luxurious linens and toiletries complementing spacious living areas and fully equipped bathrooms. Each room comes complete with a rain shower and a private balcony or terrace. Looking for the most unique stay? Reserve your stay at a swim out suite, which includes direct access to a semi-private pool. Secrets Cap Cana offers an unforgettable spa experience that will bring you ultimate bliss. At the Resort Secret Spa by Pavonia, you can receive rejuvenating body and facial treatments, relaxing massages, and visit pampering salons. Explore the hydrotherapy areas and try the spa's relaxing dynamic pool and plunge pool. Or relax your mind and body with a solo or couples massage. Dip your feet into the soft white sands on the resort's magnificent beach or make a splash in one of the numerous pools and hot tubs. At Secrets, there's never a dull moment. Stop by the indoor theater for lively shows and nightly entertainment, or enjoy big screen movies right on the beach. You can enjoy the unique natural beauty of Cap Cana on a bicycling tour. Catch some sea breezes while playing water sports, or let your inner artist out with painting classes, all led by expert resort staff. Your all-inclusive vacation here is truly all-inclusive, and the selection of restaurants at Secrets Cap Cana will suit any palate. In the morning, you can enjoy rich coffee and premium snacks at the Coco Cafe, before moving on to grilled specialties served poolside at Seaside Grill for lunch. Then dinner at El Patio, where you'll find authentic Mexican favorites in a unique alfresco space. In fact, any of the 10 restaurants here are perfect for the foodie in all of us. From fresh seafood at Oceana to Asian fusion at Himitsu. You can choose from the 6 bars and lounges at the resort to sip on a cocktail while admiring this slice of paradise. Be it the relaxing atmosphere at Barracuda Pool and Beach Bar or the amazing nightlife scene at Desires, a contemporary music lounge. Like every part of your Secrets Cap Cana vacation, there's only one word to describe it all. Wow. Your incredible Secrets all-inclusive getaway is waiting. Contact your travel.
All right, guys. Let me get back on here. Okay, so if you follow me on Instagram, you saw a lot of photos of this property because I stayed there in September. I stayed there for a few days. They gave me a tour. They showed me the facilities. Some of the stuff that you didn't see on there is its proximity to, for example, if you want to go to Coco Loco there, you want to go to some of the restaurants outside of the resort, which, I don't really recommend because you're paying for an all-exclusive resort. If you're going to be there for a short amount of time, let's say a weekend, just stay in the resort. There's plenty of activities. There's a lot to do. And take full advantage of everything the resort has to offer. Now, if you're going to stay there 5 days or more, and you want to explore other areas of Punta Cana, then by all means do so. You're going to have, it's really close to everything. It's close to the airport. It's close to just about everything you really need there. They also have plenty of taxis there if you need to travel outside of the resort. Now, as a bonus, if you're going to book this resort and you book with us and you're going to stay there for 5 days or more, besides the 25% discount that they're giving, you're also going to get a free round trip ticket. So if you're going to go with someone else, you just have to buy one because one flight will be included. Now, there is some restrictions. It doesn't apply for the Christmas holiday. So the flights, so if you're going to go there between the 24th all the way to January 1st, then that flight is not included. But any other time, the flight will be included. If you have any questions on that, DM me, Secrets in Punta Cana, or leave the comments below, and I'll get back to you with that. So now, let's talk about regulations, right? So if you're a short-term rental operator, or if you're planning to travel specifically to Europe and places like Lisbon, Barcelona, Madrid, you're going to start to see a lot of restrictions. Now, let me begin with the latest restriction, which is in France, right? Now, this just happened the 22nd. They just passed an anti-Airbnb law that's supposed to take effect in 2025. Now, if you guys are not aware, the largest short-term rental market is North America, right? But the second largest short-term rental market is France. So France, in Europe, by far has the largest short-term rental market. And this regulation, it will 100% affect how you travel there. So let me go over what they're proposing. And I'm going to read it right off the France website here, where the news article that I read it, which is called Industry News. France, the world's second largest market for Airbnb, has introduced new regulations targeting short-term rentals. Now, it's interesting, and I've mentioned this before, and it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. When people refer to the short-term rental industry, they always say Airbnb. It's not Airbnb. Now, Airbnb has gotten the brunt of the hostility towards short-term rentals, but just remember, oftentimes when you hear Airbnb, it's referring to the short-term rental market. So anyways, this continuing with the article, it says this move comes amid rising concerns about housing shortage, over tourism, which is the one I really believe is the culprit here, and the platform's impact on the local community. Now, for some reason, and I don't, and I might be biased because I am a short-term rental operator, but I'm trying to be objective here. And I look at data, and people are blaming the housing crisis to short-term rentals. Please, I need someone to show me the data to tell me that that's true, because I can't find it. I've done tons of research on this. I spent the last 4 days prepping for this podcast to discuss this specific issue. And I firmly believe that it is special interest, specifically the hotel industry, that is pushing this agenda that the housing crisis is being caused by short-term rental, and it is not. I will say this, and it's as unpopular as it is what I'm about to say. When you look at all these areas where there's a housing crisis, you're going to see there's mass immigration and mass illegal immigration in these areas. France being one of them, right? New York City being another one. So when you look at these major cities that are having these massive housing issues, they're looking to blame someone or something, and they're blaming the short-term rental industry, when in fact, the data doesn't tell us that's the case. So, but let me continue. And here's France's reasoning why they're creating, or they created this law that they're trying to pass, right? Here's some of the factors, right? Number one is and I mentioned it already, the hostility towards Airbnb, right? Critics argue that Airbnb and similar platforms are part of that housing issue, of the housing crisis that I just mentioned. But as I mentioned, I need someone to show me that data, because the data doesn't hold true to that. Now, the next one are political and economic factors. France government is addressing some budget deficits, and they're cutting tax benefits to these particular properties. So just to give you a little bit of a background, in France, and let me give you the exact numbers. In France, if you have a rental and if you have a short-term rental, they were giving you a tax deduction for this property of 50%. Now, because France, specifically Paris, the city of Paris, their budget, they have a huge deficit in their budgets, and they're trying to recoup some money to offset that budget. But instead of cutting costs, they want to increase revenue, and they want to do it through taxation. So that 50% tax that currently short-term rental operators and long-term renters or people that rent their property for long term are currently benefiting from, they're not going to benefit from that anymore. It's going to be reduced from 50 to 30%. So that's one key issue there. Then the next thing they're trying to do in the limitation of these short-term rental is currently, if you're not occupying the home, meaning if you bought a property and you converted it into short-term rental and you're not living in it, currently they have a 120-day max occupancy for that property. So you could only rent it for a total of 120 days. I mentioned this on another podcast that I did in terms of Amsterdam. Amsterdam has a similar rule, but it's more restrictive, which is 90 days. But now France is adopting that 90-day rule to their short-term rentals, right? And again, they're saying that the goal is designed for residential properties to be used for long-term rentals and not short-term, to alleviate some of the housing crisis, right? That's what they're claiming. Now, let's talk about some of the other areas in which we're seeing these restrictions. And let me switch over real quick. So here's some of the other cities that you're going to see these restrictions. Barcelona, I talked about that before. Mallorca, I talked about them before. Lisbon is now having some laws, or they're trying to pass some laws in the books. And going back to France, it's not just Paris, but it's Nice. There's tons of them. In Italy, we're talking about Florence. They're even talking about some regulations in Tuscany, Rome. So you're seeing all these major cities implementing some type of regulations for short-term rentals. Now, as a short-term rental operator, one of the things that you really need to be focused on, so that you can stay on top of this game, on top of these regulations, is stay connected to your community, right? You really need to be an activist as it relates to this. Join some, like in the States, we have VRMA. There's actually in Europe, let me see if I can find it. They're pushing back on this. Let me see if I can find the organization. It's a, let me see. I'm trying to see if I can find it. So you're, it has to do with the European Union Tourism Organization that are pushing back on this. I'll put it in the show notes, what the organization is. So if you are an operator in Europe, how do you recommend you connect with this organization and help them, right? Be an activist for this. I mentioned this before. I'm okay with regulations. In fact, even though I am an anti-regulation person, I'm a small government type person. Don't believe the government should be imposing rules on how you can or cannot, or what you can or cannot do with your property. But I do see where they're coming from, and in this industry, we are our worst enemy. If we can be more professional, we'll have less issues with short-term rentals. But I encourage you to push back on the belief or the fake agenda that the housing crisis has been as a result of short-term rentals, or that short-term rentals have a major impact on the housing crisis. Don't see the data for that, people. I need someone to show me that data, because I don't see it. Anyway, let's move on. As it relates to these short-term rental regulations, there's a company out there called August. Now, let me tell you what. Let me go into here and explain what they're about. So August is a full-service integrated real estate development and lifestyle company specializing in luxury holiday home co-ownership, aka timeshare, right? So they have taken the timeshare model that we've seen hotels do, that we've seen these co-ops like apartments do or complexes do, right? They're taking that concept and implement it into residential home, specifically in their cases, the luxury market. And they're right now, they're in all the major cities that are seeing big restrictions on short-term rentals. I just mentioned some of them: Tuscany, Mallorca, London, Paris, Barcelona, Rome, right? They're seeing that the government is going in there and restricting these short-term rentals, right? So in order to circumvent that, they're now doing what's called co-ownership. So you can go in there. Now, it's not cheap, people. It's not cheap. So, for example, a buyer can go into and purchase access to these properties. So it's starting at 1.4 million euros, right? You will have access to 22 million euros worth of real estate for an average stay of 12 weeks, or access for 12 weeks. So if you're not familiar with timeshare, it's really the same. It's identical, but in the residential market, right? So you pay this 1.4 million euros. You're going to have access to currently 22 million euros worth of real estate in these specific markets, right, that I just mentioned: Rome, Paris, London. Let me go back to that list. What is that list again? Mallorca, Tuscany, Barcelona, Cannes, the French Riviera, the Alps, right? So you'll have access to these homes for a maximum of 12 weeks, right? Now, it doesn't say that they're doing this specifically as a result of these short-term rentals, but I'm here to tell you that short-term rentals, the regulations on short-term rentals, is playing a role in this, specifically in these luxury markets. People have spent tons of money. If you follow my luxury villa series on my YouTube channel, we have a bunch of these luxury properties in Europe, and people have spent millions of dollars creating these short-term rentals, and now they're being restricted by these government regulations. So they have to make up their money somehow, and they're trying this company, and this particular company is gaining traction, and getting a lot of traction. So here's I don't firmly believe, well, I personally don't like it. I'm not a fan of timeshares, but I want you to tell me what you think about it. Do you think you would be willing to pay 1.4 million euros to have access to 12 weeks to these luxury properties? Do you think it's something that's doable, viable, something that you might be interested? I personally don't see it lasting, just like the timeshare industry is not what it used to be. It's very few people use them anymore. There are a lot of them, especially like Marriott, are converting their properties back to regular hotels. So I don't know if it's something that's viable. I personally would not be investing in anything like this, but let me know what you think. Now, let's talk about Hopper. So if you're not familiar with Hopper, Hopper is an online platform that you can go in there and book flights, hotels, and short-term rental properties, right? In 2021, again, 2021 is what I refer to as the boom of travel. I don't think we're going to see that in a very long time. But in 2021, Hopper actually was gaining a lot of traction, and they were spending a lot of money. especially in the short-term rental side of the house. They were making a big play. But just like everything else in the travel industry and everything else in the short-term rental industry, as of recent years, 23 and now 24, we saw that market stabilizing. So as a result, Hopper twice already has restructured. So let me read to you a little bit about the restructure. So back in October 2023, Hopper restructured and cut 30% of its staff. At the time, Hopper stated the goal was to increase the B2B business, to booster its global hotel supply and become profitable, because they weren't profitable, right? So Hopper's total supply faced challenges. And the reason they faced challenge, because if you recall, and I talked about this before, Expedia Group that bought out Verbal separated and removed Hopper from their list or from their partnership. So in addition to that, or as a result of that, Hopper in 2023 entered into a partnership with Uber to supply flights for Uber users, and they tested it out in the UK. Now, if you followed last week's or you watched last week's STR news, I talked about Uber and Airbnb wanting to go vertical and get into the travel market, right? So this was part of their integration, and they tested it out in the UK, and Uber wants to continue to go vertical and get into the STR market or travel in general. Now in 2024, Hopper entered into a partnership with a large credit card company in Japan to help power the new travel portal. Now, all this integration that's been going on and all this money that they've been spending really hasn't taken off as they hoped for. So now they're restructuring everything again to try to cut costs and try to sustain what they currently have. Because at the end of the day, I firmly believe they're on the right track. Uber's doing it, Airbnb is doing it. I talked about how Amazon was the pioneer of it. We do it. Going vertical is a viable option and something that every company should be looking at. Hopper being one of them. So stay tuned to see how that works out. Because if it does work out, like I said, you're going to have more options. Now, let me backtrack because I don't know if I mentioned it during these regulations, right? As a traveler, you should also be somewhat of an advocate against a lot of this regulations and restrictions of short-term rentals. Because I'm telling you, as a result of short-term rentals, starting from 2018, 19, and 20, and going forward, we saw a huge reduction in accommodation in terms of pricing. Right, Airbnb was sold to us as a cheaper and better option than hotels. But as a result of that, hotels had to be competitive and they dropped their prices. You're starting to see those prices get jacked up again. I'm going to give you some examples of what I mean by that. Let's talk about specifically some of the places that we already see regulation in. Right, Dallas, I talked about. They started doing some restriction. New York City almost completely banned short-term rentals. As a result of that, though, if you're going to stay in a hotel, you're paying double, if not 3 times the amount for a stay in New York City, for example, that you were spending when Airbnb was allowed. Right. So as a traveler, and if you are a traveler, highly recommend that you participate in being advocates for limited regulations for short-term rental. Because at the end of the day, if this trend continues, you're going to be paying the price. In addition, I talked about this before, the one that gets hurt with regulation is never the people that they say they're intending to help. So for example, regulation has never helped the lower income population of our society. and I'm going to give you an example as it relates to short-term rentals, specifically here. The ones that are going to weather the storm are the big corporations, right? Companies like mine, I can pay the extra taxes. I can pay the extra fees to get licensed in, say, Paris, in New York. I can pay that, right? But the mom and pop operator can't. The one trying to break into this industry can't. They're not going to be able to do that. So instead of having more competition, which within competition lowers the cost, we're having less competition, which is going to only increase the cost of operating. So again, I am here to tell you that we need your help if you're a traveler to help us fight a lot of this regulation. And if you're a short-term rental operator and you want to stay in this game, you need to be part of these communities and go out there and educate them, or at least tell them when they tell you, oh, we're trying to control the housing crisis, to show you the evidence behind that, right? So let me move on. The next thing I want to talk about is, Grand Hyatt, as I mentioned, right? So Grand Hyatt, and again, this is just, more evidence that what I'm talking about is coming to fruition and people are banking on it, right? And I'm going to read on their expansion. The Grand Hyatt is expanding and enhancing its global portfolio with over 10 new hotels opening in 2027 and extensive renovations for across the board in the luxury market. I'm not just talking about regular, your standard Hyatt. I'm talking about the luxury market. Again, all these things that I talk about, I've been talking about how the people that get hurt are the people that they say they're trying to help, which those that are in the lower middle and lower class areas in terms of economics. Those are the people that are getting hurt. Those are the people that are going to suffer in terms of the future, because everything's going to be more expensive, specifically in the travel industry. Hyatt is understanding that. Hyatt is spending, and Hyatt is one of many companies that are banking that the shortage or the heavy regulation of short-term rental is only going to increase their margins. So be very, again, I'm just talking about how we need to be extremely careful what's going on. Anyways, that's all the news for today. We're going to now go into news of my company. Now, as you can see, I'm back in my vineyard. In fact, let me put on my hat, because when I'm here, I like to wear my cowboy hat or my farmer's hat. I've been doing a lot of work here, trying to. So let me back up. Let me tell you what my vision is of this property and what we're working on. As I mentioned before, we're converting this into a couples resort with several specific experiences. Right? As a vineyard, this is not unique. We're going to be creating a nice atmosphere, and we're going to be providing some experiences in terms of how to make wine, a wine tasting, cheese and wine type of experience. That's one of the experiences. But as a enthusiast, as an active individual that likes to travel to places that has activities or outside activities, I want to create that here. One of the things that we're creating is an outdoor, it's a 10-acre garden that people can walk and hike through. And then we're also creating some hiking trails, some biking trails, ATV trails. So let me just show you or give you an example of one of the start of what I'm talking about. This is going to be one of our ATV slash mountain bike trail. Let me share my screen real quick. Let me try to bring this up. One second. Now that I need the video, I can't bring it up. Let me see if I can bring it up real quick. I'm going to try one more time. If I can bring this up, let's see. All right, I got it up. All right, so this is one of the trails. And then this trail is a mile long, and we're designing it for both ATVs, and like I said, you can do the bike. Now, this is the beginning stages. It's really going to take us about 6 to 7 months because we're going to line it with more pine trees along, and then with time it'll grow better. Now, we're doing another one very similar to this, which is the one I mentioned, where it's going to be a garden. And if you've been to, let's say, Madrid, in Madrid, there's and I forget the name of it, but in the center of Madrid, not near El Parque de Retiro, but it's very, very close to El Parque de Retiro, where you see an outdoor garden that's almost like a maze, right? That's what we're creating here. Super excited about it. In addition to all the hiking trails that we're starting to build, it's going to take me a little bit to get everything done. Let me go back. The project is lasting a little longer than I originally anticipated, because every time I come here, I think of something else, something new. Oh, so let me continue to go over some of the stuff that we're going to be providing here. So there's going to be 4 cottages. Each cottage is going to be private. You're going to have your own entrance, not like your own private area. Again, as I mentioned before, so if you want to walk around naked, you can walk around naked because no one's going to see you. We're in the middle of nowhere, right? But each of the cabins going to be private. You're going to have one of the barn is going to be converted into the dining area. We're going to be providing breakfast and dinner, not lunch, but breakfast and dinner. We can provide that dinner or breakfast in your cottage, or if you want to go over to the barn where we're going to have a cafe, it'll be created there. Now, some of the outdoor activities. So I've already mentioned, it's going to be mountain biking, ATV riding. You're going to have horseback riding. You can hike. We're going to have archery, fishing, and I'm trying to think if there was anything else. And as I mentioned, the wine tasting. I also hopefully we're also going to have a partnership with a much larger winery, and they have a not only is it larger, but they have a better. It's already set up as a better wine tasting experience, because they're going to have a bigger array of wine. Remember, I only have 2 grapes growing here, so 2 separate wines. It's 2 reds. So anyway, that's that. Super excited. Like I said, stay tuned. This is we're going to be hopefully the grand opening is going to be in the spring of 2026. Spring of 2026. So that takes care of that. Let's go into our finances for this week. Let me share my screen again. I am having some serious technical difficulties this week, or today. I mean, go back to last week. All right, here we go. So this week we brought in 29,580, which is down 2.8% from the following week. We had 229 nights booked. That's also down 5.4%. Occupancy rate is at 62.43. That's down by 5.3%. Average daily rate is 129. That's up by 2.7%. And RevPAR is 81. That's down by 2.8%. Airbnb was the big one at 15,000. A little over 15,000. Booking is at close to 7,000. We're at 3.5. Verbal is at 3, and others at 775. Nothing to report in terms of staffing, and I'm going to be Thanksgiving's coming up, so I don't have any big projects coming up, and that will take care of today. Hope you guys found this useful. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Follow me on Instagram. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, wait a second.